Morning, Brian.
Good morning. Ann, Priscilla, we ready to go?
Yes, Brian, we are ready to go.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I
Good
hope
morning.
everyone is well and staying safe. It's good to see those of you on the panel. Unfortunately, under these conditions, we can't do these things in person, but hopefully in 2021, we'll be able to resume live events because I think they are extremely valuable, not only for the content, but certainly for the networking and social capital piece. But again, thank you all very much for attending. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Stevens, and I have the distinct honor to serve as the president and CEO of the Hampton Roads Chamber. For those of you that are involved in the Chamber, you know that our overarching mission is to set the conditions so that businesses can be a success. And we do that in a lot of different ways. We've got a lot of different programs and services we provide to ensure that Hampton Roads has a pro-business environment so that businesses could not just survive through this pandemic, but indeed thrive. COVID-19 has had a huge impact on our business community. We've done some surveys as we were putting together a recovery and resiliency plan, and the survey results say that 2 out of every 3 companies in Hampton Roads has been either affected or significantly affected by the pandemic. So 2 out of 3 companies in Hampton Roads are suffering because of this pandemic that we're in. And so our motto, or our tagline, I should say, is means business, as you see on the slide there. This chamber means business. We mean business in good economic times, and certainly we still mean business in bad economic times like we're going through right now. In fact, I would argue that the mission of the chamber and the products and services we provide are even more important under times of economic distress than they are under good times. So today we're providing this forum in an effort to hope to crack open the door to government contracting with insight from some experienced professionals, some subject matter experts in this field. I want to thank Amy Yindel from GovConPay for coming to the chamber with this idea. GovConPay is our member spotlight sponsor today. Amy joins us now with a few comments. Amy?
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the enthusiasm from the Chamber for this event from the very beginning. So it's great to finally have it come to fruition. Good morning. I am Amy Yendel, representing GovConPay in Hampton Roads and the Peninsula. Over the past 5 years, we have recognized that the government contractor community has been underserved by payroll providers. Through a targeted and focused commitment to the marketplace, we have become a leading provider to the government contractor community. We understand the unique requirements and are familiar with the DCAA compliant ERP systems. GovConPay is the first and only payroll and HR company dedicated solely to serving the needs of government contractors. Our knowledge and process-based approach has proven to be a winning formula as we now support the payroll and HR needs of government contractors nationwide. We have created custom solutions with the leading ERP systems. We have a tremendous amount of technology to help you manage the whole people side of your business, from identifying, recruiting, and onboarding your new employees, to managing employees from an HR perspective, benefits perspective, talent management, and even employee engagement. Do not look at us as just a payroll company. We can bring better processes to the entire employee journey from hire to retire, all on a scalable platform. We create improvements and efficiencies for running your business from the people side. Your people are the first ingredient to a successful project-driven business. Focus matters. Find out how much. Let's schedule a time to talk and explore how we can make a difference with your company or with the GovCons that you serve. We are proud to be a sponsor today and hope you will enjoy this virtual event. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, Amy. We really appreciate it. Thank you again for coming to the chamber with this great idea and participating today. We really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator today for today's panel is Steve Renz. Steve is the Vice President for Operations with GovCon Dynamics. Steve, over to you.
Thank you very much, Brian, and thank you, Amy, for bringing me on board. It's truly an honor to be on this panel with just some outstanding individuals from our community here. So I am Steve Renz, I am the Vice President of Operations for GovCon Dynamics. I'm a former Marine, former police officer here in the city of Virginia Beach. I have over 20 years of experience in the government contracting environment. I hold a PhD in organizational leadership with a focus on entrepreneurial leadership from Regent University. At GovCon Dynamics, we assist businesses large and small in all aspects of government contracting. Over the last 5 years, we've helped small businesses procure over $150 million in government contracts. We've done this through online workshops, as well as some consulting services that we do. I do have to give a shout out to my partners. They're the beauty and the brains behind GovCon Dynamics. That's my wife, Lisa, and our partner, Linda Kramer. They've been just instrumental in the success of our clients. So I definitely want to thank everybody, thank our audience for being here today. Truly, honored to be here with our panel, which includes government contracting experts from a variety of fields. First up is Mr. Bruce Hacker. He is the president of Interop, a Virginia Beach-based company that was selected as Hampton Roads Chamber Virginia Beach Small Business of the Year for 2020. Congratulations, Bruce. So Bruce, if you wouldn't mind, please tell us a little bit about Interop and a little bit about how your military background laid the groundwork and laid the foundation for your company's expansion success in government contracting.
Okay. Well, thank you, Steve, for that introduction, and kudos to the Chamber for hosting this event today. Hopefully, some of what we share will be helpful to those participating. So a little bit about myself and the company. Interop is a small business that specializes in providing IT and professional support services to our clients. I attended the Naval Academy back in the 80s, got my degree in computer science, and upon graduation, got my commission as what's called a Naval Supply Corps officer. And so did a number of years in the Navy as a Supply Corps officer. And that gave me an opportunity to kind of observe and understand the government procurement process as it related to the Navy, because the Supply Corps, these are the folks that are typically running the stores on the ship, buying the parts for the ship, running the mess hall, running the dispersing office, et cetera. So it really, though I didn't realize it at the time, gave me a kind of a unique insight and I guess perspective into the way that the government and our military goes about procurement. When I started Interop, that was back in 2004, all of our customers, all of our business was commercial. And we focused on basically providing software as a service to membership-based organizations up and down the East Coast, and did that for a number of years. And then very slowly, started to look at where there might be opportunities for us to provide services to the federal government. And given that my background, was in the military and with IT, it just made sense for us to kind of market to and approach some of the naval, commands and installations in this area. And so that's what we did. And so in that way, because our initial focus was on trying to provide services to the Navy, and given the fact that I had a background in the Navy, it just kind of made sense and turned out to be very helpful. Had our initial, if the business or the marketing plan had been to try to offer services to, say, the Department of Transportation or the Department of Agriculture or what have you, I'm not sure that the military background would have been as helpful. And so I think as with all business, it's just kind of, you do what you know and leverage, your background and experience the best way that you can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce. Great background, great story. Next up on our panel is Anthony Mazzeo. He is a partner with Vandeventer Black. Tony served as a Navy Judge Advocate General attorney for more than 20 years. He concentrates his law practice primarily in government contracts, ship repair, international regulatory compliance, construction, and maritime law. Tony, if you would, please share with the audience a bit about your firm and how your military background helps you to assist your customers.
Well, good morning, Steve. Thank you. Thanks for that introduction, and thanks to the Chamber for inviting me to participate today in this forum. As you suggested, I came to Vandeventer Black from a career as a Navy JAG attorney. After graduating, like Bruce, from the Naval Academy, I started as a surface warfare officer on 2 ships and a staff before attending law school through the Navy's law education program. That Navy career gave me insight into the government's perspectives, and those help me today when I'm assisting clients with their legal concerns, especially in the government contracts realm. I developed a strong network in the military and built relationships with many uniformed and civilian DoD counsel. And I spent probably half my career here in the 757, in addition to other tours in Newport, Rhode Island, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and serving overseas in Naples, Italy, and Bahrain. I joined my law firm, Vandeventer Black, when I retired from the Navy back in 2011. And our firm, we've got a strong history in Norfolk, tracing back to 1883. We're a mid-sized, full-service business law firm and litigation law firm serving the legal needs of companies, primarily here in Virginia and North Carolina, though we do have some practice areas that are nationwide. I myself practice in our construction and government contracts practice group. Other contracts or other practice groups, as you mentioned, we also do business and commercial law, litigation, labor and employment, and a workers' compensation practice. We've got one of the largest government contracts practices in the Eastern region. Our team has a wide array of practical and legal experience, and we call on that to help clients to achieve their business visions and goals. We help clients performing work for local, state, and federal agencies. So this is right within our wheelhouse. Beginning in government contracting, as we mentioned already, can be very overwhelming for small businesses. There's a maze of federal, state, and local statutory requirements and regulations. And our firm, our government contracts practice, we help navigate that maze of the Federal Acquisition Regulation, Contracts Disputes Act, the Service Contract Act, and all this other ABCs of government contracting. We work with socioeconomic programs, help with small business applications and compliance related to the Small Business Administration, woman-owned, Hub Zone, 8A, service disabled, veteran-owned small business, and the SBA mentor protege programs. We help with contract negotiations, preparation of teaming agreements, joint ventures, subcontracts. And though we prepare to deal with disputes that come from government contracts through mediation, arbitration, litigation, bid protests, we focus mostly on preventive law. We help our clients identify and evaluate the risks that are out there, avoid disputes, and help develop solutions. We like to gain an understanding of our clients' vision and goals and become an integral part of our clients' team to assist with their growth and success. And so today, thanks again for the opportunity to be part of today's session and help share some of my knowledge.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining us. Another great story, great background, great firm to assist contractors of all types. Next up on our panel is Mr. Curt Smith. He is the manager for government contractor services from Cherry Bekaert. Curt, in providing auditing, tax preparation, and accounting services for government contracting entities, this is quite different from private corporations. So if you would, tell us a little bit about Cherry Bekaert, what you do, how you support government contracting entities, and how you assist them in thriving in a market like this.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you very much for the introduction and the opportunity to present today. And thank you to the Chamber specifically for putting this event together. I may be the only panelist that did not serve in the military, but I did serve as a DoD civilian for 12 years as a DoD auditor. I audited government contracts for the Defense Contract Audit Agency here in Hampton Roads for about 12 years. Audited small, very small contractors, medium size up to very large contractors. So it was a great run while I was there. I came to Cherry Bekaert about 4 years ago to move into the consulting side. Cherry Bekaert, working again with government contractors. Cherry Bekaert is a regional accounting firm, about 1,200 associates, mostly on the East Coast. We provide, of course, tax services, audit services, and then we have a wide variety of other types of practices within our advisory group. One of those types of practices is our government contractor services group, and that's the group I'm a part of. And we focus exclusively on assisting government contractors. We can assist with proposal development. We can help you with your incurred cost submissions, help you put indirect rate packages together, which is very important when you're bidding contracts. Provisional billing rates. Once you are awarded a contract, you've got to have provisional billing rates in place for just to properly bill. We also offer compliance reviews. We could do this for contracts that are under FAR. Now, I'm not stepping into Tony's territory. We are not attorneys, but a simple compliance review can be very helpful at a sort of 30,000 foot level. And we're familiar with FAR enough to help you with that, particularly with the cost principles. Again, we're not attorneys. We would never step into your territory, Tony, believe me. We also assist with compliance reviews for grants. So if you have HUD money or DHHS money and it's in the form of a grant, we can help you with a compliance review with the Uniform Grant Guidance. So I think a big topic today is system reviews. And this is for accounting systems or estimating systems or purchasing systems. There are several systems that DoD and other government agencies are looking to use as a method of making sure contractors can comply with the FAR and that they can perform contracts efficiently without, if you will, without issue. So it's also, we assist with those reviews. We can conduct them as attestation engagements. So what that means is if you are responding to a proposal, say you are trying to become part of either responding to a specific proposal or you're trying to gain access to what's called a multiple award contract. It's usually an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. What this is, it's just a huge contract vehicle. One of them is called Oasis, for example. DHHS is putting out a new one called CPIO SP4. And there are parameters for getting on these contract vehicles. If you get on the vehicle, quote unquote, that means you are a qualified offerer or provider of services. So the government buyer will come to this contract vehicle looking through these qualified buyers. So they know that the government buyer now knows they're doing business with someone that's been approved. And part of that so the part of that approval process is your accounting system adequate? Is your estimating system adequate? Is your purchasing system adequate? And so in this process of quote unquote getting on these vehicles, you would like to be able to check the box. Yes, I have an accounting system approved by a third-party CPA firm that's audited. And the word audit is very important in my world because that means there's an attestation engagement behind that versus, say, just some fact checking. All right, an attestation and engagement or a quote unquote examination or an audit is a very thorough review. So we will conduct those reviews of your accounting system, of your estimating system or purchasing system so that you can check that box. I will say there is some pain involved, and I know Bruce Hacker and perhaps Michael Harris can speak to that. There is some pain in gaining this adequacy in these areas. So you need someone alongside, and a third-party expert like Cherry Bekaert is of tremendous value in that regard. So.
Thank you so much, Curt. And a couple of the firms that I've been with in the past have used your services, and just a great asset to our community and to our contracting firms here in our area. So definitely want to thank you for your participation here today. And then last but not least is Mr. Michael Harris. He is the president of Intellectex and is a retired Army colonel. Michael, please tell us how your company works to provide technology, training, professional, technical and administrative services to federal customers, and how your background makes that possible. Oh, I think you're on mute, Michael.
Well, first of all, to everyone, good morning. I do want to say thank you, Steve, for that introduction, and of course to the Chamber. Thank you so much for putting this on. As you said, I'm a retired Army officer, served in my last assignment. I was responsible for managing about 350 general officers and about 3,000 colonels. I was there in the Navy, they call it a detailer. But I was born and raised here in Norfolk, Virginia, home of the Navy, and I joined the Army. So please don't hold that against me. I'm a distinguished military graduate of Virginia State University, and found myself right back here at home and really enjoying it. I am proud to be able to say my partner in crime, the CEO and founder of Intellectex, is actually Miss Jerry Profit. She's a woman. It's a woman-owned business, so we're always excited about that. I joined the company about a little over 4 years ago. Jerry and I have known each other since she started the company, and one of the things I oftentimes talk about, if you talk to Jerry, she would say, you know, I was her mentor in 2008 when she looked at going into government contract. And today, I always tell small businesses and those starting, please, you know, find a mentor. American Express says it's the #1 reason for success of a business, having a mentor. But anyway, Intellectex is a technology company. We provide services across both the federal sector and commercial sector. In the commercial sector, we're a managed service provider. Businesses outsource their IT to us because it's cheaper and more efficient for a managed service provider like Intellectex to do that. Our services include information technology in terms of enterprise architecture. We stood up about 2 years ago a cyber boutique to help companies with the CMMC and NIST certification. And actually, it's the fastest growing segment of our business. But we also do engineering work and professional services. We do all work across DOD, Veterans Administration, Department of State. In fact, we're Apple's only small business provider, and we have a prime contract where we provide thousands of Apple products to about 160 countries across the world who are in support of USAID. We're located here in Hampton Roads in Virginia Beach, but we'll have employees over 200 located across 32 states. So, you know, we're here to really make a difference in the region. But one of the things we also like to do is partnering, teaming, and I'll talk more about that later. But that's Intellectex. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, for being part of this panel today and bringing your expertise to bear here. Definitely appreciate that. I want to thank all of our panelists here. So we're going to start off with our questions. So question number one, you know, many small business leaders in particular, especially those who have been in business for a while, they're often overwhelmed by the thought of getting into government contracting. Just in our discussions this morning, we're hearing terms like IDIQs and the FAR, and we're talking about DCAA and all these things. What advice would you give, you know, to a small business owner who's looking at pursuing government contracts? And I think we'll start this off with Bruce.
Well, it's a fantastic question, and I think that at a very high level, my advice to anyone who's interested in you know, doing work with the federal government would be to, you know, if you don't have you know, a mentor or a relationship with somebody who, you know, has kind of been down that path before, as Michael suggested, I'd highly recommend just kind of cultivating some relationships there. But the other piece, I tell you, there is a wealth of information available these days, just on sites like the SBA. small SBA.gov. There are also organizations across the country. I think it's called the PTAC. It's a Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They're in every state. I think in Virginia, there are like 3 or 4 different regions. I would highly recommend doing some research on those organizations, because these are groups that are charged with going out and trying to help small businesses better understand the federal procurement process. And so I remember back when I was getting started, this was a good 15, close to 20 years ago, but I did research on a number of PTACs in Virginia, and it just so happened that there was one up in Northern Virginia that really seemed to be, just had a wealth of information, where they were constantly putting on events and seminars, half-day seminars. And so, I made it a point, probably on a monthly basis, to get myself signed up for a seminar on, say, bid and proposal, or, accounting systems, or, any number of things, and just go up there and, participate in the session, ask questions. And I guess my attitude was always, hey, if I go and I'm able to come away with 1 or 2 things from that session that I didn't know going in, then it's a success for me. So I would start with that. The other thing that I would say is that at a very high level, most federal agencies are organized, or they have a point of contact. It's normally referred to as a small business liaison officer, SBLO. And so you can reach out to the agency. You're going to have to do your research, but try to identify who that small business person is, and then try to make arrangements, to get on their calendar, and just have a discussion. Obviously, these days, because of the pandemic, most things are virtual, but you could have a Zoom meeting and just ask some questions, and use that opportunity to kind of help you better understand whatever agency is that you are looking at trying to market to. I think that things like that would be they'd be a fantastic way to start. And then, of course, you look at the way that the government tends to go about buying things and procuring things. So you want to get familiar with, sites like beta.sam. These are all things that you will learn as you reach out to some of these, these other agencies that I've just spoken to you about. But that, I think that would be a good use of anyone's time who's looking to get started.
Great advice, Bruce. And you had mentioned the small business reps, those sad boos, the small and disadvantaged business utilization specialists, and with some of the different agencies, that when you identify your target customers, your target government customers who are in the market for the products and services that you offer, reaching out to them helps you to gather information about how the government, procures your products and services, particularly that specific agency. So I think that is just great advice. I'm going to throw this same question over to Mr. Harris. Are there any first steps that you would recommend to somebody looking at getting into government contracting?
Yes. Well, thanks a lot. Well, first of all, I'm just going to say up front, the number one thing is mentors. And you notice I use it with an S, right? There's a wealth of information. So it's a tsunami of information out there. And of course, Bruce talked to you about but I think those who are trying to get into the government space, that's the challenge. But here is what a mentor can do. The mentor takes that tsunami of information, of data, because that's what it is, lots of data, and they turn it into information that you could use. So if you're going into the federal space and you want to get into a particular agency, you want to use your social media, use your LinkedIn to see, who do I know in that agency? I mean, you have to start there, because it really is going to be about, in order to provide services to that particular agency or organization, you need to know something about what their needs are, what the organization is about, and mentors can help you with that. You don't need 20 years of DoD experience to be able to operate in space, but you need a mentor who has DoD experience who can help you navigate. So I will leave, the one thing is to find mentors. You know, if you're trying to get into the Navy space, I'm not going to be a good mentor in terms of an Army officer, so to speak. I've been in this business long enough where I've won a number of Navy contracts. In fact, most of the contracts we win are Navy. But the idea is find someone who's familiar, who's willing to share their knowledge and experience with you. And that's perhaps the most important thing anyone can do who's trying to get into the federal contracting space, is to find someone who's been there, who can help you. And you may have to find several people, because I may be great in terms of DoD market, but I don't know much about accounting and contracts. And so you can have another mentor, or maybe I can help leverage you to someone else who can be your mentor in that area.
Absolutely. I think that's crucial. Having, you know, that backside support of somebody who's been there and done it, I think is crucial to your success. So I'm going to throw this at Curt. You know, from an accounting standpoint, you know, for somebody who's looking at getting into government contracting, they spend a lot of money on accounting systems and things like that. You know, from your perspective, what would you recommend for somebody who's looking at getting into government contracting to start getting their first contract in place?
Well, let me comment quickly as a follow on to Michael and Bruce's comments. And that is, when Michael says mentors, I know he uses that in a very general sense, and that is very true. I agree with him 100%. I will follow on those comments, if I may, to say that mentoring can take the form of teaming. So you would, if you are trying to get into government contracting, you have a certain skill set. You do something really, really well. Okay. And you would try to locate companies that have prime contracts selling services or goods to the government for whom you can subcontract. And we use the word team in the government contracting industry. So you could team with them, and they are going to be your mentor, because they're going to qualify you. They want to make sure you know what you're doing. And let me fall back to accounting systems. They want to know that you know how to manage your costs, that you can tell them what your costs look like. And so let's just say this. When I bump into people in the private sector, commercial side, it's all fixed firm price. What that means is there's a price that you are awarded a contract at, and whether you make or lose money is up to you. And that's the normal way of life outside of government contracting, basically. And so, you know, as long as your P&L reflects profit, that's all that matters to you. And that's perfectly understandable. But when you get into the government contracting space, the government, especially if you move away from a fixed firm price contract into a T&M contract, or especially a cost contract, and I'm not going to throw too many more terms around. We don't have a lot of time today, but the government has access to your account, your books and records, and they will want to see your costs broken out by type: labor, material, direct costs like travel. Then they're going to want to see how you allocate your indirect costs. They want to understand your G&A pool, your G&A base. And they have contractually the right to see this. And also during the proposal stages, even in a fixed firm price contract award scenario, they will ask for this information. It's called cost. It comes in the form of a request for cost or pricing data. So you need to have your accounting act together, whether you ask us to help you qualify your accounting system for adequacy and approval by DCAA, or you just want us to help you understand how to put your chart of accounts together and assemble indirect cost pools and bases, so that you make a good presentation to anybody from the government taking a look at your cost structures. So so that's an accounting thing. I did want to also say that Bruce's comments about the SBA, Michael's comments about mentor, it's important to make sure you are, I do think becoming a subcontractor at first is the way to go. But if you want to bid on prime contracts, you need to be identified as a small business, and there are other, you know, hub zone, woman-owned, service disabled, veteran-owned small business, and these qualify you for set-asides. What that means is you are not in what's called full and open competition against much bigger companies. You're competing with people more or less in your league. And so the government, the federal government, has a quota of business they have to buy from small business every year. And this is especially true with larger procurements. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but you got to get your ducks in a row. And part of that is your accounting system, and then the other things that we've been talking about.
Absolutely, highly important. In the beginning, you mentioned teams, and this is perfect transition into Tony. When you're going after, you're looking at teams, setting up your NDAs, your teaming agreements, and your subsequent subcontract agreements. That's where obviously Tony comes in. So Tony, from a legal standpoint, what advice would you give to these small business owners?
Well, a lot of what we've already talked about is pertinent. I assume that most of our attendees today are brand new to this. I know we have some experienced contractors in the group, but for most of you, I know it's overwhelming. All these things, these acronyms that have been tossed around. But you got to remember that the U.S. government's the largest consumer of products and services in the world. Selling to the government can be lucrative for small businesses, especially in an economic downturn. They've got to continue buying, but they've got special rules. Being a subcontractor, as they said, is a great way to start. And you at first, you're probably going to be relying on that prime contractors, subcontracts to you. You're not going to have a lot of negotiating power, but you'll want to have somebody review those teaming agreements, those subcontracts, your non-disclosure agreements, all these things, these agreements and documents that go into the government contracts practice. We talked about the PTAC a little bit. There are other groups out there. There's a wealth of information on the internet. You've got the Tidewater Association of Service Contractors and the Tidewater Government Industry Council that also provide free training and industry days and things like that. But those programs that were talked about, the set-asides or the sole source programs, women-owned small business, service disabled veteran-owned small business, Hub Zone, 8A program, those all have a lot of legal constraints on them that you have to understand, and that we can certainly help with that kind of thing as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next question, and that it deals with, how do you treat your federal customers, your government customers? Should they be treated any differently than say a commercial customer that you might have? And I'm gonna throw this to Michael Harris, if you don't mind, if you'd field that one.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I truly believe that when it comes to customers, you have to be customer focused. You have to first figure out what it is that they desire and to try to make their dreams come true is what I oftentimes tell people. So, and from my perspective, it doesn't matter who my customer is. In my case, as the president of Intellect Techs, my customers are my employees, and I feel that same way. I'm trying to help to make their dreams come true by a number of different requirements they have of me. But you should always be customer focused, and you want to be customer focused. In some regards, we operate in the general services administration space and the federal, and sometimes there are rules that you can't offer the federal government a price that's, lower or higher. So in that regard, it comes back to, you have to be customer focused. You want to obviously always be legal, but you want to make sure you find out what it is that a customer what it is that you can do for them. And then you want to provide them that service because you want to do it over a long term. You want, someone asked the question, how do we come back from COVID-19? And we're willing to get to that, but be customer focused. Know what it is that customers need and be ready to provide those services, or team with a group of folks who could provide those services.
Absolutely. Bruce, I've heard the myth, from people who've maybe been in government contracting, might have been disappointed, or folks that haven't done government contracting, but there's a myth out there, that the government is terrible to work with. What's your experience been with that?
I don't agree with that. We have had and continue to have some just some fantastic relationships with our federal clients. Now, when we first got started, like I mentioned earlier, all of our work was on the commercial side, and some of it was with the nonprofit sector. But, I guess our philosophy, or my philosophy, has always been that, if they're a paying customer, we're going to treat them like the kings and queens that they are. Because if, as with every business, if you're not taking care of your customer, sooner or later, somebody else will. And so I think that, to get back to, your comment, Steve, there can be a lot of frustration around the process and just some of the red tape and the bureaucracy that goes into doing work with the federal government. But at the end of the day, once you have that relationship, once you have that contract, it really is all about people. And as Michael mentioned, we do everything that we can to take care of our employees, so that they are in, the best position possible to be able to take care of our customers. And so that's my observation and our approach.
Absolutely. And it's been my experience, the government is just like any other customer.
Yeah.
They want quality products and services. They want it at a quality price, and they want it with quality customer service.
Yeah.
When I tell folks getting into government contracting, if you can provide those things, the government is probably a good customer for you to seek out. And then, Curt and Tony and some of you others have mentioned utilizing some of the preference programs and things like that as well to position yourself to gain access to these contracting opportunities. So excellent advice here. I'm gonna move on to Curt. And, one of the myths, and he touched on this a little bit earlier, but, one of the myths out there is that, only the big guys succeed in government contracting, or small businesses can't compete. From your perspective, how can small businesses gain that competitive advantage?
Well, I think that Bruce and Michael have said some great things already in answer to that. And I will add that, let's just say that you are a business and you've been in operation for a few years, so you know what you're doing. You know how to please customers, and you know how to market your services. I would say that you need to make sure you're participating in one of these small business set-aside opportunities with the federal government. But in your market, you need to market your services. You need to reach out to people in the buying command if you can gain that access or find out who they are. You need to attend industry functions locally where government personnel will be. And by the way, the government does have small business, various DoD agencies, for example, will have small business days where you can attend and meet these people, and they're anxious to meet you too. So, but you need to understand that it's important about just doing doing what you do well and helping them understand that. And then they're going to fall back. That's the most, and Michael and Bruce have already basically addressed that. And then you would fall back to the regulatory environment. And then they're going to want to know certain specific things about compliance requirements. We've talked about accounting systems. The regulatory environment does begin to intrude at that time. So you've got to exhibit some understanding of that and a willingness to comply with that and work within those boundaries. But again, the government is like any other customer. They want to do business with people they can trust and rely on to provide what they need.
Absolutely. I'll throw this over to Tony to get his perspective on this, on how can small businesses position themselves, possibly utilizing the preference programs to gain a foothold in government contracting.
Well, as you can tell from all the comments so far, it's not something you can just walk into.
Right.
You've got to do your homework. You've got to understand the process. You've got to assemble your team. We talked already about the best way to start is as a subcontractor to the government's prime contractor. That helps you build your past performance and your corporate experience. Those are things that are taken into account when competing for a government contract in the competitive process to determine best value to the government. Once you've done that, once you've established those and you're in your set aside program, the government has this thing called the rule of two. If there are two small businesses where market research indicates that there are two small businesses that can compete for the work at a fair and complete the work at a fair and reasonable price, and that they are expected to offer on the solicitation, that procurement must be set aside for small businesses. There are also all simplified acquisition threshold of $150,000 and below. Those automatically must be set aside for small businesses. In addition, those prime contractors, the large businesses out there, they have to have a small business contracting plan where they have a goal of meeting a certain amount, a certain percentage of their contract as a set aside for small businesses. So all those opportunities out there, there's a wealth of opportunities, and these small businesses, once they establish themselves in their field under their next code, a category of work that they do, once they establish themselves, they can compete for those.
Absolutely. You touched on, the rule of two and responding to sources' thoughts and using those methods to position yourself, better for contract opportunities and contract wins are huge. And then obviously, aligning yourself with some of these larger primes that have contracts who need to meet those small business goals, I think are huge. So I want to thank everybody. I think Priscilla just jumped in here. So I think we're going to field some questions from the audience. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Priscilla.
Thank you, Steve. And we're going to start. Georgie Marquez is our vice chair for small business for the Hampton Roads Chamber. And she has a question to the panel, and I'll let you sort of field out who's the best to answer it. So Georgie, if you can ask your question, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Priscilla. Good morning, everybody. So we've been in business, own a small architecture firm, woman-owned, minority-owned, architecture and interior design. We've been doing work with the federal government for over 30 years. So actually what I'm curious is some of the information you've given has been really amazing, very good for people who are trying to get into that field, and especially for small businesses. But as somebody who has already experienced in government contracting, I'm just curious, what projections do you have? We've just had a crazy year with COVID where the government actually dumped a ton of work to maintain a lot of the economy. But I'm wondering, all the work that got dumped in 2020, what does that do for 2021? And also there's a new administration now. So how do you see procurement specifically for small businesses in the federal contracting arena? And I don't know, Steve, you decide who's the best person to answer the question.
Well, and Steve, you may be the best person to answer because you sort of are involved in everything. So
right.
Well,
so
I don't know that I'm the best for this, but one thing I would say is that if you have existing government customers, talk to them, find out what their budgets are, what their plans are, especially with a transitioning administration. You can look at, the agency forecasts. If you go to acquisition.gov, you can look at a particular agency, Department of Defense, Department of Agriculture, and look at what their forecasts are. What are they going to be spending money on? What types of contracts are coming out? When you start seeing these things, contact the small business reps at those agencies and find out what's coming out. What do you foresee as, a small business set aside? You need to be talking to your customers, identifying those customers, who's buying your products and services, and then how are they procuring those things? And then, start the dialogue would be my advice to you. And I'll turn it over to anybody else who might have a thought on this, because we're going through volatile times right now, and especially in contracting, a lot of people their hands are up in the air wondering what's going to happen also.
I second that, everything that you've just said, Steve. I think the most important thing would be just to, stay in contact with your customers and understand where they are, and more importantly, or just as importantly, where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know that things are subject to change daily as we proceed in this wonderful environment in which we're all working. Delcino Miles is a former chair of the Hampton Roads Chamber and a very strong small business owner, and she has a question also. So Delcino.
Yes, good morning. Happy New Year, gentlemen. My question is more of a comment too. Could you go in and explain sort of the merits of some of those programs you mentioned, the certifications like GSA Schedule and other procurement tools? I think that's important because there are a myriad of tools, and it can, with folks particularly that are going to be new to this arena, it would be helpful perhaps to just explain what are some of those tools available to them for procurement, because different agencies use different tools. And also perhaps advise them to research the buying history of an agency, looking at forecast reports. And you touched on some of that stuff and all its public information. And Ben, you mentioned, Bruce, you mentioned about the betasam.gov, if you would mind just kind of talking about that. So I kind of threw a bunch of stuff up there. So whoever would like to take that on, the procurement tools, and then research and history of the buying history of the agency, and then the significance of the beta.sam.gov. Thank you.
Bruce, I think she wanted you to start this one out.
Well, I'll start. So when you get into the schedules that you mentioned, Delcino, and thank you for bringing that up. It's extremely important, and that's why I think it's so. I mentioned earlier about the PTACs and using some of these other agencies to learn about this stuff, but once you identify an agency or a couple of agencies that you'd like to, to market to and do business with, it's extremely important that you then, start to work to understand how the federal government goes about procuring what it is that you are, your products or services. So say, for example, if, I know a couple of small businesses that specialize in, selling office furniture, or maybe you're a reseller for computers, desktops and laptop computers. Well, it turns out that there's a huge effort in the government right now to get smarter about how they go about buying things. It doesn't make any sense for every single agency to have a different process in place in order to buy office furniture. And so you have, what are called GSA schedules. And so there's a schedule out there, I don't know what it is, for office furniture. There's another schedule out there for things like computers, laptops and desktop computers. And so if, the point is, if you're interested in selling office furniture to an agency, you're going to first want to understand how that agency goes about making procurements. And, that's where kind of talking with the small business rep can come in handy. But then very quickly, you're going to want to try to understand the process, that you'll need to go through in order to get approved to be on, on a certain schedule. And that's no easy task. That can take a little bit of time. So I hope that kind of answers the question. And then when it comes to beta.sam, that's one of many sites that the federal government uses to announce, that they have opportunities that they're looking to get filled. And so it's very important for all small businesses just to register and to get in there and kind of get comfortable with using systems like that. Beta.sam didn't exist, a year or two ago. It was another system.
FBO.
FedBizOps.
Yeah, that's right, FedBizOps. And so there's been a lot of change there, but the point is that is one system that is used in order to announce opportunities. And you're going to want to get in and just understand how to filter based on the agencies that you're marketing to and the products and services that you sell, how to kind of put some, some searches and filters together to help you identify and stay on top of those opportunities, and then also to understand how the opportunities are being competed. You know, if you're looking at an opportunity that you think might be a great fit, and you see in the site that it's you know, what's called full and open competition, and you're a small business just trying to get started, you know, that's probably not going to be a real good use of your time. You're going to want to look for opportunities that are being solicited to the small business community.
Thank you, Bruce. We have a couple questions from Angel Marrero Jr. and one specifically for Curt. So we'll open Angel's microphone now. Angel, are you there? Okay, well, his first question, Curt Smith, are the concerns of evaluation mostly security related? And then the second question was with regards to having specific systems that run our business, and I would imagine internal policies, procedures as well.
All right, so thank you, Angel, for bringing up security, because that is a huge issue in government procurement today. There are standards emerging and in place, actually, where specifically for DoD, but generally for, I believe, all federal agencies, contractors have to have certain cybersecurity built into their systems. And there's certifications that you can attain and sometimes may be required to have to even become an approved, even to bid on a piece of business with the government. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. That's another, we could spend another panel discussion on that alone, but that is something that I think contractors do need to be concerned with. Let me quickly say though, that if you're looking to get on the federal supply schedule and you're selling a commercial item, such as office furniture, these are also called the GSA schedules. And this is the process I believe Bruce was referring to when he mentioned just schedules in general. That security requirement is not so evident, if you will. So the government recognizes that small businesses don't have the funds to buy firewalls and, you know, cybersecurity hardware and software that costs quite a bit of money. And so anyway, so when you're starting into government contracting, you may not bump into that requirement right away, but it's out there. So, and Angel's second question was?
I think you're on mute, Priscilla.
Yeah.
Priscilla, I think you're muted.
In regards to having specific systems. So it pretty much was all part of that same question. So thank you. Okay. And we, you know, as predicted, we have lots more questions than time. We thank you all so much. What this does tell us is that we definitely need to do another one of these. We're gonna wrap this portion out. If anybody has any final thoughts, and then I'm gonna hand it back over to Brian Stevens, who will announce our keynote speaker. And some of the questions, she may be able to answer some of those, and some of them we may be able to get email answers to you. So I'll just give you a quick wrap, and then we'll turn it over to Brian.
But the last thing I would say is, you know, COVID continues to impact all of us, but in the government contracting space, it's coming back. You know, those contracts, the government has been impacted just like the rest of the world. And so as soon as you're going to see, I think in 21, those services, those needs, their requirements are still out there. And so get ready, you know, do your research, get ready to withstand all of those solicitations. I honestly believe in task orders that's going to be hitting the street because the government needs those services.
And if you don't mind, I'll add, you know, I'm watching some of the chat questions and comments in here. You know, we've talked a lot about the federal side of contracting. For small businesses, a lot of our clients, we get them started going after state and local opportunities, utilizing the SWAM programs, utilizing the micro designation here in the state. So utilize those. There's so much business right in our backyard, especially here in Hampton Roads. I want to thank definitely thank our panelists here. Just a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience here that everyone can appreciate for sure, and definitely reach out to these individuals for any support that they can offer you. And I just want to thank you and the chamber and Priscilla and Stephen and everybody else here, Amy, for allowing me here.
Well, thank you, Steve. We appreciate your moderating the panel this morning. And I want to especially thank Bruce, Tony, Curt, and Michael. I was in defense contracting for a while, so this brought back some very fond memories, and I appreciate the substantive discussion this morning. It's now my privilege to introduce another subject matter expert in this field. Katina Adams is our keynote speaker. She works for Newport News Shipbuilding, a division of Huntington Ingalls Industries, and Katina, just know we love Huntington Ingalls here in the chamber. It's one of the largest government contractors in our entire region. Katina is the Small Business Programs Manager working with supply chain operations and compliance. She is responsible for small business contract compliance, amongst other things. Katina has over 25 years experience with government contracting and serves on the board of both Women in Defense of Greater Hampton Roads, as well as the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. Katina, thank you for joining us today.
Ryan, thank you. Good morning, everyone. And thank you to the Chamber for allowing me to speak today. Ann, I just sent you an email. I do not see my slides. However, I am going to proceed. Let me just first make sure everyone can hear me. Can someone give me a thumbs up?
Yes, we can hear you. This is Priscilla. Thank you, Katina. And for all of you on the webinar, Katina is not able to open her camera because of security issues that she's dealing with, as many of you know, with the government contracting. And so we have her slides up, though.
Okay, so you all can see my slides because I cannot see them.
We see them.
Okay, no worries. I have a PowerPoint open just in case this happened. So I will proceed with the backup plan. So as Brian indicated, I work for Newport News Shipbuilding. I am the Small Business Program Manager at Newport News, been with the company for over 20 years. The program is scheduled to end at 11:30, this program, and that is a hard stop for me. I have another call that I'm going to need to jump on. So I am going to quickly run through my slides. The most important thing that I'm going to share with you is that these slides are online, and I'm going to show you how to access them. And I'm also going to give you my contact information. And so you will be able to reach me on my direct dial phone number, as well as my email address. If you have any questions or if you feel more comfortable talking to me directly, I encourage you to do so. So as many of the panelists has already shared, one of the most important things that you need to know if you're interested in being a government contractor or subcontractor is understanding the agency or the company that you're pursuing. So first, we're going to run through who is Newport News Shipbuilding, what are our programs, what are our primary products and services that we manufacture and deliver. And then I'm going to talk to you quickly about the process of actually becoming a subcontractor to Newport News Shipbuilding. And since I'm unable to see the slides, if you would help me out by advancing to slide 2. Newport News Shipbuilding. We're good?
We are all set, Katina.
All right, fantastic. Newport News Shipbuilding is the sole designer, builder, and refueler of aircraft carriers, and we're one of 2 providers of Navy subs. The second provider is General Dynamics Electric Boat. Newport News, we design, we build, we maintain, and we activate the most advanced ships in the world using our nuclear propulsion, naval design, and manufacturing. This is really, really important for everyone to know because as our name suggests, we are in the shipbuilding business. We have hundreds of suppliers that knock on our door on an annual basis that would like to do business with Newport News Shipbuilding. And I'm sure that these suppliers are providing, very quality products and services, but they're just not a good fit for the type of business that we do at Newport News Shipbuilding. You'll see in this slide and in the next slide, just an idea of the types of products and services that we deliver to our Navy customer. And so as I'm going through the presentation, pay attention to the pictures and the details in the slides. And if what we are producing and building and manufacturing is not what you're offering, then perhaps Newport News is not the right partner for you. One thing I will stress, Newport News is not the government. We are a federal government contractor. We are the largest industrial employer in Virginia, and we have over 25,000 employees. And that's going to be important in a minute when I differentiate between our direct procurements and our indirect procurements. So on slide 3, you'll see our Navy programs, and we categorize them in essentially 4 buckets. They are the new construction carrier programs, which is the CVN 78, the CVN 79, and then the CVN 8081. There is the RCOH programs, which stands for Refueling Complex Overhaul, and that would be our CVN 73 and CVN 74 programs. We have our submarine programs, such as the Virginia class submarines and the Columbia class, and those are the contracts that we partner with Electric Boat General Dynamics on. And then we have our fleet support programs, which, all the carriers and the submarines that are existing in the fleet, we are supporting those contracts as well. On to slide 4, I've identified the buying offices in Newport News' supply chain management department. And as we proceed through the next slides, you'll see specifically what the responsibilities are for those buying offices and what some of the opportunities are. Slide 5, you see the raw material, hardware, and small electrical components buying office. I've identified the responsibilities for this office as well as the potential opportunities. For this particular buying office, they are supporting all 4 of those programs, those naval programs that I just mentioned. Slide 6, which is the valves, fittings, filters, and strainers buying office. Same thing, they are supporting the programs, the naval programs. And also we have one contract with the Department of Energy. And so with that Department of Energy contract, any of these buying offices, the raw material one I just spoke of, the valves office, and the ones that we will discuss going forward, they could also be supporting that Department of Energy contract as well. Slide 7, complex deck machinery buying office. Same thing. This is going to be either our Department of Energy or our Department of Navy contract. Now, this is where I wanted to differentiate. On slide 8, when we talk about IT hardware, software, and services buying office, now we're getting into our indirect procurements. The direct procurements and the indirect, just really simple. The direct procurements are supporting a specific government contract, whether it's been awarded by whatever federal agency. In Newport News' case, it's either Department of Defense or it's the Department of Energy, but it is supporting a federal government contract. For our indirect procurements, these are opportunities to support Newport News shipbuilding facilities, our day-to-day operations. Remember, we have over 25,000 employees. And so, there's a lot required to keep operation as complex as ours operational each day. And so the next couple of slides that I will share with you, these are buying offices that are supporting the day-to-day business operations for Newport News Shipbuilding. Understand, however, many of the responsibilities and opportunities that you see in these slides, they are already under long-term agreements, which may mean there may not be an opportunity today, but there could be an opportunity for you to bid and submit quotations at some time in the future. Moving on to slide 9, maintenance repair operations. Once again, this is our indirect procurement office. Slide 10, construction, engineering, and facilities services buying office. Again, this is our indirect procurement. And slide 11, business services buying offices. Once again, this is our indirect procurement. So these are the opportunities for, anyone that don't see themselves fitting in on the direct procurement side with the submarine and aircraft carrier products. Moving into slide 7, now we're back on the direct side again. So the complex electrical components buying office. Slide 13, make, buy, build to print, shipboard, subcontracted material buying offices. And then slide 14, shipboard, subcontract services buying offices. I'm about to show you where these slides are located online, so don't get concerned just yet. And again, you're going to see my contact information before I wrap up. So I know I went through all of that really quickly. No worries. You are more than welcome to reach out to me and I will assist you as needed. So let's talk about how to become a supplier. We just talked about who Newport News is, what our primary products and services are, and what are some of the opportunities and as well as responsibilities that we have in our buying supply chain organization. And so moving on to slide 16 now. For suppliers that are not currently Newport News suppliers, they are have never done business with Newport News Shipbuilding, Newport News has a prospective supplier program. And so any company that's interested in becoming a supplier with Newport News Shipbuilding, they're going to need to create and submit this prospective supplier form. And the next couple of pages will show you where our external supplier site is and how you can access that form. Slide 17. You see this is the Newport News Shipbuilding site down the bottom here, nns.huntingtoningalls.com. When you go to this site, you select suppliers. That's going to advance you to the next page, as you see on slide 18. And this is the Newport News Suppliers webpage. Lots of information you'll be able to find on this page. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about in the next few slides, this is going to be the primary page that you want to navigate to and you'll be able to access that information. So once you get to this page, just click Become a Supplier. If you go to the page today, it's going to look slightly different. It's about 80% accurate, but it's going to look slightly different today. There's information about COVID up there, and then there is the slide presentation that I'm sharing with you as well. So now on slide 19, we're at the prospective supplier webpage, and there is a circle, the yellow circle, where you see, please, if your company is interested in becoming a Newport News Shipbuilding supplier, please select here. This is going to take you to the prospective supplier form. The slide deck that you're seeing now is going to be located on this page, and it's going to be the last sentence and link on the page. After the to view the prospective supplier video, select here. Underneath there will be the location for this link. So slide 20, this is how the prospective supplier form looks. And so, it's a simple 2-page form. It's going to ask you for information that you see is identified on the right side of the page. You're going to complete the form. You're going to attach your marketing material to the form, and you're going to email this form to Newport News Prospective Supplier at HII-newportnews.com. That email address is right here on page 20. One thing I cannot stress enough regarding this form is, as a hiring manager, I tell people when you are trying to applying for a job, you submit your resume to get an interview. Once you are selected for an interview, you're trying to get the job. but the intent with submitting your resume is to get through the candidate pool and to get the call or email to come in for an interview. Same thing with this prospective supplier form. Hundreds of suppliers are submitting these forms to Newport News Shipbuilding. We're looking at these forms, and based on this form and the information that you attach, that will determine whether someone reaches out to you to say, hey, I'd like more information. Let's have a conversation. So, please be very, very thorough as you are completing this form, and accurate and complete. As I'm looking at these forms and reviewing these forms, some of the things that I see, I'm thinking, wow, if they can't get the form right, and we are Navy nuclear defense, perhaps this is not the right business for them to be in. So please be very detail oriented, very thorough when you're submitting this form, because this will determine whether you get the yes, we're interested in talking to you further, or thank you, but no thank you for your interest. So regarding the prospective supplier form, one thing I want to highlight is the JCP number. With the JCP number, that's a little different with Newport News Shipbuilding because we are a defense contractor. If you are going to do business with us on the direct side of things, you will need a JCP number. And here in the presentation, we give you information on the JCP number. Also, you see System for Award Management, SAM. The earlier panelists mentioned SAM.gov. We encourage our subcontractors to be registered in SAM, but it is not a requirement. Another thing that I'd like to add is, certifications. There's a lot of information about certifications. Women-owned certification, the service disabled veteran-owned certification. The only certification that Newport News requires, if you will, third-party certification is the Hub Zone certification. If you are going to identify yourself as a Hub Zone supplier, you have to be certified by SBA. Any other small business category, whether you're women-owned, small disadvantage, service disabled, veteran-owned, in order to subcontract with Newport News Shipbuilding, you can self-certify. Okay, slide 22 is just a pictorial of the supplier-based path. I'm going to really move through these next couple of slides. Slide 23 talks about the prospective supplier process. So you're going to complete the form, you're going to attach marketing material, you're going to send it to Newport News Shipbuilding. The stakeholders are going to review it. They're going to decide whether to pursue you or not to pursue you. If we decide to pursue you, then you're going to be invited for a 30-minute meet and greet discussion. Following the meet and greet discussion, we will determine whether or not to onboard you. If we onboard you, we'll notify you via email and we'll send you more paperwork. And so that paperwork you'll see is on slide 24. There'll be some forms that you need to complete. Also on slide 25, there are additional forms that you need to complete. On slide 26, we give you some ideas of some things to help you be successful if you're going to be working with Newport News on the direct side of our business. And so regarding the terms and conditions, you heard some of the panelists talking about FAR and DFARs. Newport News Shipbuilding is a federal government contractor. We're in the defense space. If you're going to do business with us on the direct side, you're going to have to be familiar with FAR and DFAR clauses. That information is on our external website. And so if you'd like to see how that looks, the ADOD contracts, that term that I'm referencing in this first bullet, I'll be happy to show you where you can find that, just so you can get an idea of the types of requirements. Also, quality systems. We are a defense contractor. I can't stress that enough. So some of your commercial quality systems, the same thing with the third bullet, the welding and NDT. Some of your commercial welding will not work for the types of products and the types of applications and the types of projects that we're going to be awarding. Slide 27, this is showing you where those PO appendices are located, those terms and conditions that I referenced. Again, I will be happy to meet with you and we can discuss that in further detail. Slide 28, in the event that you are doing work on the indirect side of business and you happen to do work inside of the yard, then there are environmental health and safety requirements that you'll have to meet. And so this information is also on our external website. Slide 29, we're talking about the prospective supplier process. Once again, you've gotten the paperwork completed, you've returned it back to Newport News Shipbuilding. Now you're at second base. Buying offices are notified that you are in the purchasing system and you may begin receiving RFQs. And once you receive an RFQ, then you advance to third phase. Once you get to third phase, then we're asking you to be very, ensure that you understand the requirements of the RFQ. Make sure that you submit your quotes and proposals by the deadline. When I started working at Newport News years ago, 20 years ago, I was a buyer. And it amazed me how many of our suppliers just disregarded the RFQ deadline. And, they had been doing it for so long that they were not penalized for that. No longer is that the case. So please be mindful of the quote deadline. Provide all requested information, clearly note exceptions, and contact your buyer with questions. And then home plate, of course, is when you receive a contract. And so slide 30 is going to talk about ethics and compliance. I hate to run through this really quickly, but because it's very, very important. Because of the type of work that we do and the company that we are, ethics and compliance is a major deal with Newport News Shipbuilding. And so, please take a look at this slide. We hold our employees to high ethics and standards, and the expectation is the same for our suppliers. Slide 31 shows that we have a section on our external supplier website regarding ethics and business conduct. Slide 32 identifies our expectations regarding our suppliers concerning ethics and conduct. Slide 33 is a quote from our president and CEO of our corporation, Huntington Ingalls Industry, with where Mike Petters is saying, we design and build and maintain the most complex ships for the world's greatest Navy. And we do this with our hands, with our heads, and most importantly, with our hearts, because that is what shipbuilding is all about. You'll also see the company values on that slide. Slide 34 is some frequently asked questions. I am going to skip this, but you are more than welcome to read it. And slide 35 is, again, some of the most important information I can share with you, which is my direct dial and my phone number. And my email address. Are there any questions?
Katina, it doesn't look like we have any specific questions for you, but thank you so much for doing this with us. It was a wonderful presentation and very thorough, and we truly enjoy you sort of cracking open that door for us and for businesses to get in on general government contracting. So thank you, Katina. I'm sure that you will hear from some of our participants. To all of our participants on the line, thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists, Dr. Steve Renz for moderating the panel, Bruce Hacker, Tony Mazzeo, Curt Smith, and Mike Harris. We will absolutely do this again. We see now that there is such a need for this. And again, we are dedicated here at the Hampton Roads Chamber to helping businesses, small, mid-size, and large, not only make it through this pandemic, we are going to thrive and we are going to find new ways to do business, and we're all in this together. So drop us a line if there is something that you feel you'd like us to do a presentation and find an expert on. And as we grow this, we'll look to you for more information. And we will have Katina's slides also accessed on our website once we have the write-up. So Katina, if we can just go back to your final slide, one of the one of the viewers is asking to see, yeah, exactly. See so if y'all want to just grab that screenshot right now, so you've got Katina's information, we'll also make that available. Thank you all so much. And again, just one more quick shout out to Amy Yendel at GovCon Pay for coming to us with this idea. Amy, we love the idea and we want to do more. And thank you all for participating today.